Sophia Hadley, Epip. Having just watched a kickboxing performance, I would like you to highlight the performer's strengths and weaknesses in skills, fitness and tactics. Prioritise a major weakness and give an action plan for this weakness that includes a timescale, coaching points and progressive practices. I would then like you to explain the local and national opportunities for your performer and the health and fitness benefits of taking part in this activity.
So the strengths and weaknesses of the kickboxer in the video. To start, the skill strengths and weaknesses. So a weakness for the kickboxer was that her guard was quite messy. It was always dropping when she was sparring, and which led the opponent to actually strike her in the chest area. Another weakness was that her kicks were quite low, and to improve this she could increase the flexibility and actually achieve head kicks, which would add variety to her performance. A strength would be that the side kick was actually fully extended, which allowed more power to be pushed throughout the strike. Another weakness would be that her cross had no pivot, but if it had pivot on, that she would be able to reach the opponent a lot and actually put a lot more power into the cross. The roundhouse kick, she managed to kick with the top of the foot, which increased the power, but unfortunately she either landed forwards, which decreased her balance, or landed backwards. Another strength would be her jab, which was always accurate and it always hit straight to the body. Moving on to fitness, strengths and weaknesses. A weakness would be her flexibility, as she wasn't able to actually get a range of kicks in like that was waist height, shoulder height and head height. A strength would be her coordination, as she was able to also throw a punch like a jab or a cross and actually be able to defend the opponent's kick at the same time. Another weakness would be her balance, as on the roundhouse kick she was actually falling forwards after she striked. Another weakness would be her speed, as she wasn't that fast in doing combinations and throwing punches and kicks, which allowed her opponent to actually strike. Another strength of the fitness would be her explosive strength, as she had a lot of power behind her punches. Also, her endurance strength was also a weakness, as she was getting quite weak throughout the sparring and she wasn't able to continuously throw powerful punches. Moving on to tactics, strengths and weaknesses. One strength of the tactic that she used was wait and counter, which was when she waited for the opponent to actually start a combination, she actually intercepted, for example, a jab, which allowed her to actually counter strike. Another tactic she used would be that she countered right away. For example, she actually did a side kick, and once she got back into guard, she did a cross to counter. A tactic she could have used would be actually not moving in a straight line, because on the kickboxer in the video was actually moving back in a straight line, which gave the opponent momentum to actually prepare for a kick or a punch. If she was in a sparring situation, for example in a ring, she could use a tactic where she forces the opponent to go into the corner, which makes them isolated and hard for them to actually throw strikes or attacks back. Another tactic she could have used would be continuously using combinations, and this stops the opponent actually throwing punches or kicks back. So she's the only one that is throwing the strikes. So moving on to the action plan. The priority weakness for the kickboxer would be her roundhouse kick, and to actually measure tests to start with, do 10 roundhouse kicks on the front leg and 10 roundhouse kicks on the back leg. The time scale for this would be one training session, and this every week, and this would last 4 to 6 weeks depending on how well she's developed and improved. So the coaching points of a roundhouse kick would be that firstly she needs to synchronise her breathing with the kick, and this sets a pace and like a beat for each part of the technique and the skill. She also needs to make sure that a guard is always up throughout the roundhouse kick, as this is preparing you for if there's any attacks that the opponent is about to strike with, so you're able to easily to defend. Your arms are also raised, which also helps with being easier to strike and defend. Make sure you emphasise the preparation of the kick. The next one would be chambering the leg, pivoting on the back leg while twisting your hips. After this, you must snap the leg out with the top of the foot, which pointing your toes, which is plantar flexion. Then retracting the leg and making sure that you don't actually fall forward, and make sure you stay in guard and come back into stance. So the progressive practices for the kickboxer in the video would be that the first thing she needs to do is actually shadow roundhouse kicks in front of a mirror to see what's part of the skill she needs to improve on and how she could improve upon that. The second one would be use kick pads, which is a mechanical guidance which allows her to actually see how much power she needs to put behind the roundhouse kick. The third one would be use a passive opponent, where there is an opponent in front of you who, it's a realistic situation where you're able to see how high you need to kick and what part of the body you need to kick on. The next one would be use an active opponent, where the opponent is actually trying to avoid the kicks, so you're having to move around with them and actually try and roundhouse kick them to the body. The next will be a sparring situation, which puts you under a lot of pressure to actually use the roundhouse kick, and it's a realistic situation for like a competition. So you're able to see how much power you need and what part of the body, like the height of your kick needs to be. So at the end of the week period, you need to compare a test to the start of it, so 10 roundhouse kicks on the front leg and 10 roundhouse kicks on the back leg, and see how many well they perform compared to the first test they do at the start of the action plan. Moving on to local things that the kickboxer could progress with is the local clubs in the area, BMKA, which is in Sedgley, and Eclipse in Wolverhampton. To increase the participation in kickboxing, many clubs actually do 30-day free trials, which is open to everyone to go to, and actually try and get a feel for the kickboxing and see if they enjoy it. Another way to increase participation is using advertisements in schools, which allows young people to, it increases participation in young people and introduces them to a healthy, balanced lifestyle. Another way to increase participation is that there is a lot of clubs locally. So if you aren't able to get to a certain one, you're able to get to another one, because there is quite a few locally. Some of the barriers within kickboxing is that it does cost quite a lot of money. Equipment can go up to £300, while the membership for every month is £20, and gradings for each grading is £25. Transport is also another barrier, because if you're depending on your parents to actually take you to these training sessions or gradings, and they've got work, it's hard for you to get there. Another barrier is that the media could actually influence you. Say for example, if a professional kickboxer was involved with using performance enhancing drugs which gave them the advantage against everyone else, that would influence you and influence a poor role model to amateurs in kickboxing. Tournaments involved in semi-light and full contact tournaments, which happens all across the country. There is also a points fighting league, which is team-based, and a professional league. There is a level 1 and 2 coaching courses, but you must be 16 plus to attend. Kickboxing is not recreational because once you join, you are a full-time member willing to do gradings and competitions. Moving on to national, the national governing body for kickboxing is WACO GB, and two of their main aims is to promote the sport and practice of kickboxing and allied disciplines, and to promote the moral, mental, social and physical well-being to all the members. One of their mission statements is actually to be recognised by Sport England, Sport Wales and Sport Scotland as a national governing body for kickboxing in Great Britain. The funding on offer for kickboxers is that home country sport councils actually invest money into kickboxing clubs and help with getting equipment and funding for kits, etc. The talent identification process for kickboxing is professional coaches actually scout at competitions all across the country and select the best ones that they see at these competitions. They then ask them to go to a trial where lots of other people have been scouted for, and then pick the best ones from this trial. The best ones are then developed to their full potential, and then if they're successful at the end, they're asked to be recruited to join either a national team or a regional team. The coaching on offer, there is a WACO GB instructor coaching course, which is a course that overviews the running of a martial arts club. Every instructor from every club, it's compulsory for them to attend. You must also be a first and black belt, and you must also be 18 plus. From this course you get a national qualification to instruct in a kickboxing club. Moving on to benefits, health and fitness benefits. A social benefit for kickboxing is that within the club there is new people who you might not know, so you're making friends, and if you are like a first and black belt, you're also able to take a group of students within the club and actually help them with their belts, so that increases, like, gains you a leadership skill. A personal benefit is self-esteem, because kickboxing is a disciplined sport, and it also boosts your confidence when learning new skills to like, it helps you just to, like, a mental benefit is that it reduces stress, as it when you actually do kickboxing, it takes your mind off everything. The muscular system benefit is there is a muscle hypertrophy of the biceps brachii, which means that your punches will become a lot stronger and they won't get weak within the sparring situation, so you're able to continuously throw lots of jabs and crosses within the sparring. A cardiovascular benefit is that there is cardio hypertrophy of the heart, which makes you have a lower resting heart rate, and it also increases your stamina. A skeletal benefit is that the joints become a lot more stabilised, which increases the flexibility around the joint. And if you do a lot of oblique work, the joints in the hip become a lot stronger. When doing a roundhouse kick, when you have to twist the hips, you're going to have a lot more force and power behind the kick. Respiratory benefit. When you increase the tidal volume, you're also increasing, like, the greater intake of oxygen per breath, which is delivered to the working muscles, so you're able to exercise for a lot longer and not get out of breath. For example, like during sparring, you're going to be able to throw a lot more faster punches and faster kicks.